Welcome back. My name is Kaushik and you are watching Kaushik's Everyday English. Friends, today's lesson is going to be very interesting for you because today you are going to learn some English slangs that can be used in your daily conversation. Now, what is a slang? A slang is a vocabulary used between people who belong to the same social group and who know each other very well. But remember, slang is a very informal language and it is used in speaking rather than writing. But believe me, if you use this English slangs in your daily conversation, your English will sound better and as advanced as that of the native English speakers. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Look at the slang in today's list. The first slang rather in today's list. Geek. Now, what does geek mean? Now, geek is a person to be felt very strange because he spends all his time studying. Say, for example, you have got a friend and you have gone to him and asked him to come with you to see a movie, but he's so studious, he spends all his time studying that obviously his answer will be no. So, in that case, you can say that my friend Jonathan is a geek. You can't expect him to accompany anyone to a movie. So that means he is very studious, he spends all his time studying, so naturally he won't come to see a movie with you. Let's move on to the next slang in today's list. Old foggies. Now, what does old foggies mean? This slang is actually referring to some elderly people. Say, for example, in the morning you have gone to the park for jogging and you have seen some old people sitting there. So at that time you can say, look at those old foggies sitting on the bench in the park. So you are meaning or you are referring to the elderly people. Let's look at the third slang in today's list. Any road. Now, when someone says any road, he doesn't mean to pick a particular road or he doesn't mean to choose a particular road. Rather, any road is a substitute used for any way. For example, any road. Are you from China or Japan? That means anyway, are you from China or Japan? Let's move on to the next slang in today's list, a load of TOSH. Now, what does a load of TOSH mean? Actually, it is used to describe something that is not very good. Say, for example, you wrote an essay and your teacher didn't like it. So, it can be said something like that, that your teacher described your essay as a load of TOSH. That means it's not up to the mark. Let's move on to the next slang in today's list, a quaint face. Now, this is a very favorite slang of mine. And quaint face means that when a person sees another person he knows. That means a known face, some known people. Say, for example, you have gone to the library and you have seen some known people. So at that time you can say, I met a few quaint faces in the library. That means I have met some known people in the library. Let's look at the next slang, Adam and Eve. Now, this is also another interesting slang which you can use in your daily conversation, and it means to believe. To believe. For example, you could say, can you Adam and Eve it? That means, can you believe it? Let's move on to the next slang, bee's knees. Now, this slang is neither related to bees nor related to knees, but it is used to mean excellent. For example, you could say, we thought he's the bee's knees. That means we thought that he was a very excellent person. So in this way you can use this slang, bee's knees. The next slang, bite your arm off. Now this is also a very interesting slang, but if somebody says this, don't get alarmed. Nobody's biting off any part of your body, right? But this slang means that someone who is very excited to get something. For example, you could say the kids would bite your arm off for ice cream. That if you tell them that you are going to give them ice cream, or you are going to buy them ice cream, they'll just get very excited, right? So in that case you can use bite your arm off. Look at the next slang in today's list, bits and bobs. Now what does bits and bobs mean? It means an odd selection of things. For example, you could say, I have a few bits and bobs in the fridge. I'll see what I can make. That means you have got some odd selection of things in the fridge, and out of which you have to make something. You are not very sure. So in that case you can use bits and bobs. The next slang in today's list, cheesed off. Now cheesed off means being unhappy. Obviously you are unhappy when the cheese went off, right? So it can be used in casual or informal situations also. Say for example, you could say that I'm cheesed off you ate the last piece of cake. That means I'm very unhappy that you have eaten the last piece of cake. So in that way you can use this slang, cheesed off. Look at the next slang in today's list. Don't try to teach your grandmother to suck eggs. Now this is a slang, but this is actually a complete sentence. Now this is generally said by an elderly person to a youngster when the elderly person feels that the youngster is trying to be disrespectful by thinking that he or she can teach the older person something. So in that case you can say that don't try to teach your grandmother to suck eggs. Let's move on to the next slang in today's list. Don't cry over spilt milk. Now generally this is said by someone if you get something wrong, or if you spill or break something. But actually it is used to mean that not to worry about. So don't cry over spilt milk. It is generally used to mean not to worry about something that you have done or something that you have made a mistake. So don't cry over spilt milk. Let's move on to the next slang, donkey's ears. Now what does this mean? Apparently donkeys live for a long time, for many years, right? So donkey's ears means for a long time. Say for example, you could say, I haven't seen you for donkey's years. That means I haven't seen you for a pretty long time. Let's move on to the next slang in today's list, earful. Now earful is an expression used to describe someone who is being told off. For example, you may hear someone say they got an earful for being so loud last night. So in this way you can use this slang, earful. Let's look at the next slang, full of beans. Now full of beans is actually used to describe someone who is full of energy, who is full of vivacity. So if you find a very energetic, a very vivacious person, you can say that I like him because he's full of beans. So I like him because he's full of energy, he's full of vivacity. Let's move on to the next slang in today's list, for crying out loud. Now this slang is actually a replacement for a rude word. For example, you discover that your bike has a flat tire and you may yell, right? Oh, for crying out loud. So in this way you can use this slang for crying out loud. Friends, this is for today and I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson. I'll be back again with another interesting lesson. But before I leave, I would like to request you to like, share and subscribe to my channel. I'll be back again with another interesting lesson for you. Till then, stay safe, love your family, love your parents and love yourself. Bye.